now. Hello, everyone. Good morning and happy Wednesday. Compliments of the season to you as well, as it is December. My name is Gracia White, and I am the Customer Success and Brand Strategy Lead at Calibra Solutions Limited. Thank you for joining us for our webinar today, which is entitled Securing Compliance, Navigating Cybersecurity, and Enabling Affordable Cyber Resilience. Before we start, I wish to first acknowledge our presenting partners, Regional Compliance Consultants Limited, Ms. Roxanne Ford and Mr. Mukesh Malian, as well as my colleagues from the Calibra Solutions team, our partner, James Coons of Data Privacy and Security Advisors, LLC, and from Judy Security, Brian Stone and Ed Angel, and our event partners, TCJ Events. And of course, a very special acknowledgement to all of you, our attendees. We're very excited to have you. So let me start with my agenda. Great. So today our agenda will take the following format: the welcome, which I've just done, and then right after we'll meet the teams. So we'll have a quick hello from George as well as Roxanne, and then we'll get into why we're here. Roxanne and Mukesh will go through the Central Bank of Trinidad and Tobago's Cybersecurity Best Practices Guideline, self-assessments, and incident reporting requirements. George will join us again and include Ed and Brian for recommended strategies for compliance, specifically the Judy Security Cybersecurity solution. We'll have a featured demo of Judy, as well as open questions and answers, and we will close. Our presenters, again, as mentioned, so George White, he's the Managing Director at Calibra Solutions Limited. Roxanne Ford, she's Principal Consultant at Regional Compliance Consultants Limited. Mukesh Malian, who's a Digital Transformation Consultant at Regional Compliance Consultants Limited. Brian Stoner, Senior VP at Judy Security. And Ed Angel, who is, or Angel, as Ed told me, who is the Director of Sales at Judy Security. And again, I'm Gracia, your moderator. So, webinar context. Why have we invited you here? So as you know, cyber threats continue to be one of the greatest challenges to an organization's data, reputation, and customer trust. It is also very costly, but I know Roxanne will deal specifically about what that looks like in 2024. As cyber attacks become more sophisticated, and of course, as regulatory organizations and expectations evolve, it's now absolutely inherent for organizations to proactively strengthen their defenses. But with all things, there's always a price involved. And we know the average cybersecurity solution can be prohibitively expensive for micro, small, and medium-sized entities. That's why we think Judy is a perfect solution for you, but I will let Brian and Ed speak to that. And of course, the objectives today to review the cybersecurity obligations as prescribed by the Central Bank of Trinidad and Tobago, and to introduce Judy Security. So before I bring George on, I also want to mention that we have something special as it is the season for giving. We will have 3 prize segments throughout the event, so look out for questions, and once you answer quickly and correctly, you could walk away with one of 3 $50 gift cards, and $50 US, guys, just in case you were wondering. So look out for those questions. So with all of that being said, let's get straight to it. I'd like to bring George on. So George is our lead at Calibra Solutions Limited, formerly our managing director. He has over 30 years of senior executive experience, encompassing information technology, information security, business intelligence, business development, and software development. His experiences and accomplishments have provided him with a unique 360-degree perspective of all aspects of the business environment, having been a customer, technology partner, and technology vendor. He founded Calibra Solutions Limited over 16 years ago with a mission of helping companies leverage technology to accelerate change and unlock their success. Good morning, George. I'll hand over to you.
Thank you, Gracia. Good morning, everyone. Morning, everyone. It's a pleasure to have you all this morning, taking a bit of your valuable time to be with us. My mission is to spend a few minutes to introduce you to Calibra. The idea is that we'll share a little bit of information, and additional details will be available at your leisure. We'll provide the necessary links and documents for you to obtain more information. So Calibra, our agenda this morning, we're going to talk about a quick overview of Calibra, the solutions that we provide, our valuable partners, a snapshot of some of our customers, our contact information, and in a second segment, I'll talk about recommended strategies for compliance. So Calibra, as Gracia mentioned, we've been around for a while, 16 plus years, and about half of that time we've focused on information security. Our head office is here in TNT, but we have a network of consulting partners, employees across several countries. We serve the Caribbean primarily, the English-speaking Caribbean, the Eastern Caribbean and Dutch Caribbean territories. And of course, our value proposition is about helping you, our customer, leverage technology to accelerate change and to unlock your business's success. Our solutions are mainly four main categories, as indicated: information security, business intelligence and analytics, financial application software, IT consulting, and advisory services.
Hi, George. Sorry, don't mean to cut you, but we're not seeing your presentation. Do you have it in full screen view? As in, we're not seeing you scroll through it slide by slide.
Okay, what I'll do is exit from...
Just click slideshow at the top.
From beginning. Or, yeah.
Is the transition happening now, guys?
We see something loading, so not sure if it's
Okay, in the
paused
interest
on
of
your
time,
end.
I'll go quickly while we try to sort out these technical problems. Information security, as I mentioned, is our main solution, and we have various products and services in this area. Enterprise threat intelligence for the enterprise market, and we've been a Darktrace partner for 8 years. Vulnerability/exposure management, and we leverage Tenable in this regard. Insider risk management, detect systems, and the main reason for us being here this morning to present cybersecurity for MSMEs, leveraging Judy Security, dark web intelligence and monitoring, trust intelligence involving data privacy, consent and preferences, third-party management, technology risk and compliance, and data and AI governance, and very importantly, IT security awareness training. In the limited time that I have, as I mentioned, guys, I'll provide the details of what we do separately. Tenable exposure management, which is about preventable, exploitable, and impactful technology that can assist in indicating where your exposure lies. Searchlight Cyber for dark web security. And there are two products, Cerberus and Dark IQ. And what Searchlight Cyber does is allow us to get information on the dark web, which is an important aspect of the cybersecurity fight, where this is a forum where the threat actors share a lot of information and content. So it's useful to know what they're doing in that particular forum. In terms of today, the main thrust is going to be on the micro, small, and medium enterprises. And we provide information security relating to privacy, data governance, risk and compliance, application software from OneTrust. And we partner with our expert global data privacy and security partner, DPSA, providing privacy gap and risk assessments, data protection and privacy impact assessments, third-party risk, information security, certification preparedness, and implementing data privacy application software. Information security awareness training is an important element. It's not just about leveraging tools in the fight to protect ourselves, but there's an all-important need to train our employees so that we're all aware and can protect ourselves and the enterprises against the threat actors. So security awareness training, we leverage partners such as KnowBe4 to assist in this regard. In terms of business intelligence, we have a relationship with a leading provider in this sphere known as Click. And for financial application software, we partner with Mimics Inc., a US-based financial software application company. On the services side, apart from the tools that are leveraged, it's important to be able to train and provide adequate consulting and advisory services. And we do this both ourselves and in conjunction with our partners. Now, a good point to be made is that you're as strong as your network. So in that regard, we work along with leading global partners. We extend our technology and business capabilities through an ecosystem of market leaders, innovators, and experts. And in that regard, we're talking about Darktrace, Tenable, OneTrust, Detect, Searchlight Cyber, Data Privacy and Security Advisors, KnowBe4, Judy Security, which is going to be featured today, Click, and Mimics. In terms of our main class clients, this slide indicates some of the main clients across several business sectors that we work with. And in the interest of time, I know that I have used up my time slot at this point. So in terms of our contact information, the slide indicates our email address, our telephone contact, our website, www.calibrasolutions.com. And we're also available via various social media channels, Facebook, LinkedIn, X, and YouTube. So this ends my particular presentation at this time. Thanks again for joining. Please bear with me, my voice is a little unusual this morning, but hopefully I was able to convey a little bit of information. So I'll stop sharing at this point, and it's over to you, Gracia.
You're on mute, Gracia.
Thanks, Brian. So no, I was saying silently, thank you to George. I know he was he's been recovering from a bout of the flu. So appreciate, him giving us his energy and presence today. So I want to bring on now from the regional compliance team, Roxanne and Mukesh. I'll quickly mention that Roxanne specializes in providing practical regulatory compliance solutions and guidance to small and medium enterprises in the Caribbean region. She has facilitated training throughout the region on AML, CFT, CFP, FATCA, CRS. Have I missed anything else, Roxanne? And today we also have Mukesh, who is a digital transformation consultant and certified information system auditor with over 25 years of exec level experience. Very pleased to have you guys. Over to you.
Excellent. Thank you, Gracia, for the wonderful introduction. I hope everyone can see my presentation. At Regional Compliance, our mission is simple. We aim to provide practical regulatory compliance solution. That's the reason we're here today. So we look forward to being an ally, being an asset to you and your business. Over the 12 years we've been in business, and we have over 20 years of experience. I won't say how much over that over is, but we've got quite a bit of experience as the directors of regional compliance consultants. Just want to share with you quickly about us and our business, who our target clients are. Everyone who has to comply with the Proceeds of Crime Act. What's not on the screen is because they haven't called us yet. We do churches, nonprofits, members clubs, attorneys, and these are some of the companies to date that we have served over the years. So you can see they represent a complete cross section of business in Trinidad and Tobago. I just want to tell you, in addition to what Gracia has said about myself, and Gracia, it's been a while since I've been introduced as Roxanne. In the business world, it's that B Roxanne. And I'm so pleased to hear my name called as the Roxanne without the B, but the B is inexplicably there when you look me up on social media. What we do in terms of providing gap analysis is what we bring to the fore with respect to the central bank's guidelines. We do that whenever there's a guideline issued by the central bank. We will take it apart, help you figure out where you are, what you need. And that's what we aim to do for folks in the coming year. And we obviously have a wonderful solution in Judy that we're all excited about. And that's why we're here today. I don't have to mention much about my colleague, Mukesh Malian, who has joined us today. It's going to be his first adventure into working with us. He is excellent. I've wanted ways to involve him over the years. We worked together for over 13 years, and he is someone who is a mentor, a colleague, and a friend to me. So it is with pleasure that he joins us today, and he is our digital transformation consultant. So we've already talked about what we're going to be discussing, like I said, but the strategies and the opportunities to mitigate cybersecurity risks. Although it says the central bank's guidelines, I want you to know that they are best practices for everyone, wherever you are. In fact, that's what it says in the central bank's guidelines, that these are best practices and that all businesses should aim to do just this. So when we talk about cybersecurity, I always ask in my courses on AML compliance, who's responsible for compliance? I want you all to know that cybersecurity really is a shared responsibility. I know if any of you are very around with social media, I shared with Gracia a clip where there's a woman and IT was calling, and she just kept saying, well, I don't know who you are, so I'm not going to take your call. And the fact is that the culture that we want is that you trust your IT persons, but you also understand you have a responsibility. So it's a collaboration between compliance officers, IT personnel, and everybody involved in the organization. So once you are able to implement a robust cybersecurity system, you can effectively eliminate your cybersecurity risk, yes? If we do that, and we're then able to protect our assets. And so it's a cybersecurity really is just that. It's a foundation for establishing this framework. And more, all of us, no matter what industry we're in, we are collecting and requiring more and more data from our customers. And so we have an obligation at all costs to, and this is going to not be very costly, at all costs to secure our customers' information. So when we're talking compliance in cybersecurity, because compliance is my forte, what we're looking at is the ability to adhere to the rules, best practices, the regulations, wherever you are, wherever that the regulatory framework sets them out. How are you complying? So having a cybersecurity program then is really the foundation for the strategies that you will establish to safeguard this digital information and all your data, and all to mitigate all the possible risks that are out there. You can't get every possible one, but certainly this is a good place for us to start and grow. And it not necessarily doesn't always have to come in terms of a guideline. There's so many best practices out there what if your laws in your territory don't specifically cover it, then we have guidelines and best practices, which is what we're going to share today. So you might say, but why do I have to comply with this? What I'm doing is my own thing. Yes, because this is a best practice, and because the cost of non-compliance, Gracia said, I would mention the cost of non-compliance. In looking over data and statistics that's available, we realized that in IBM's 2024 data breach report, the average total cost of a breach is USD 4.8 million. It was 4.45 in 2023. And that's malware and ransomware attacks. Locally, we know how many people, how many companies have had cyber attacks. We don't know the cost. We don't have a local agency quantifying it. But using that as a guide, we can understand it is very costly. Whether it's phishing scams, insider threats, software vulnerabilities, and data leaks, prioritizing compliance and protecting your digital assets is extremely important. And the solutions we're going to offer you, and by reviewing this guideline and referring you to the guideline, our aim is that you would strengthen your cybersecurity posture. Yeah. Everyone is seeing my screen. I saw something pop up in chat. I just want to know, we're seeing and hearing me okay?
Yes.
Yes. Okay, good. So we're going to talk a little bit about the role of compliance officers and IT personnel. I know some of you, wherever you are, you said compliance officers are in everything. Absolutely. The role of the compliance officer is just ensuring that the cybersecurity programs basically align with the regulatory requirements so that it is not during an audit. So for instance, in using the central bank's guidelines, they require that you do a self-assessment annually, which Mukesh will go into later. But your self-assessment is basically an audit, of are you doing what you're supposed to be doing? And those are some of the services that as a network, we're able to provide you, conducting that risk assessment and identifying your vulnerable areas as what the compliance function is able to focus on, and to help you recognize where your weaknesses and where your strengths lie. Yes. And of course, ensuring that you have a timely response to cybersecurity. What your IT personnel should be doing is really deploying, liaising with vendors, deploying solutions, making sure your firewalls, your software, your encryption tools are adequate for an enterprise your size. And as we mentioned today in the overview, we are introducing ourselves to micro, small, medium enterprises. The big guys, the big guns have big guns with them. We are here for those of you who are somewhat lost, somewhat afraid, somewhat in that realm of, I cannot afford this. How can I do this and run a business? And it is very possible to run a business safely and securely and within your budget. And so the IT personnel, yes, they're there to respond and to mitigate cybersecurity incidents. But if you don't have a way for them to do that, where would you be? Yes. So a bit about the central bank's best practices. Let me just quickly look in the chat to make sure there's nothing that pertains to me. Okay, I'll come back to that. So the Cybersecurity Infrastructure Agency, CISA, I love the way they describe cybersecurity. They describe cybersecurity as the art. Move my slides along. There we go. Yeah. They describe cybersecurity as the art of protecting your networks and devices and data from from unauthorized access or criminal use. It is the practice of ensuring confidentiality, integrity of the information you have available to your stakeholders, customers, as well as staff. And it's in effect, it's paramount to, the cornerstone of your business, because we're all in this digital era. Without it, we are nowhere, but we have to have a way to do it. Yes. So the best practices guideline that Central Bank has put forward really provides companies with guiding principles that are pretty much consistent with international best practices for establishing adequate cybersecurity frameworks. Yes. And as Gracia has taught me, to ensure cyber resilience. I just love the way that sounds. So the cybersecurity framework that the CBTT puts forward and what you adopt should really be proportional to your business size. As anything, what's important is a right fit, yeah? So it should fit your company's business model, the complexity, where all your operational risks lie, those should be considered. So while locally, the guideline is established under the Financial Institutions Act, the Insurance Act, and the expectation is all the entities registered under these acts would comply. You know, comply is my favorite word. Other institutions that are not regulated by the central bank, and those of you, many of you are here today, you are encouraged to adopt those provisions because they are in fact best practices. Yes. So if you are a regulated entity, we do want to share that it should also be kind of taken into consideration with the central bank's guideline on security systems for safeguarding customer information. Now, while that's a 2005 guideline, trust me, it also goes hand in hand with the corporate governance guidelines that were put out by the central bank. And taken as a whole, it will ensure that you have the appropriate level of coverage. I just would like to looking to see if there's anything that pertains to me, any questions that you have asked in the chat. Okay, no, sorry for that mild interruption. So ideally, all companies should implement cyber risk provisions, yes? And so what does the central bank guidelines really require you to do? One, they want to be sure that you, in your cybersecurity strategy, it's a documented strategy. A lot of persons who approached us when we were assisting with the self-assessment, they're like, yeah, well, we have an IT guy. This is well beyond your IT guy. And sometimes that IT guy, he's got stuff documented at his office, but you've got nothing at yours. So if the IT guy has something documented, you need to have a copy of it. You need to see what does he have documented. And some of the key things that should be in that documented strategy is your password policies, your access control policies. I know a lot of us find multi-factor authentication very, very cumbersome. In fact, recently they shared, I saw in media that Samsung was hacked by 2 young men using their own multi-factor authentication. But it does have its place and it is important. And of course, the guideline also recommends, as George highlighted, employee training and awareness, extremely important. Incident response planning, you must have a plan. Both Mukesh and I have been involved over years in business continuity planning for the multinational we worked for. It is extremely important that your business continuity plan is updated to include your response to cyber threats. Yes. I know many of you have BCP plans that are, they cover earthquake and hurricane. And if you have not updated it recently, Mukesh is the guy for you. But yes, it should include your response to cyber threats. And that's what the central bank is saying you should do. And as well, have regular security assessments, audits of your cybersecurity policies, and desk audits if you wish, but certainly audits and testing, penetration testing, and all the things that Calibra is here to share with you that they're capable of helping you with. And additionally, I want to be sure I stress the importance of third-party risk management. Quite often, we rely on vendors for whatever services. We give them access to our business, but we sometimes are very lax in our controls over these vendors. We've had a recent discussion in my organization about that. And sometimes you have to, to put your foot down and basically say, it's not about what they want. We have protocols. There's certain things you should control. Yes, it's nice to use someone else's system, but you want to, as often as you can, use yours so that you have control over your cybersecurity and control that you don't give up so easily. I think I've reached a point where I'm going to turn over to Mukesh so that he can just talk about the self-assessment. Mukesh, you're going to share your own slides, or would you like me to help to do for you? Mukesh?
Okay. Have you guys seen my slides there?
Okay, I will stop share.
Yeah, stop share.
Okay, right. And just go to slideshow.
Yeah. You should be seeing my share there.
We are.
Okay. Okay.
Just go to slideshow and click from current slide.
Yeah. Is that okay?
Yep,
Okay, good.
gotcha.
Right. Okay, so good morning again, everyone. Just to pick up on where Roxanne would have been talking about the central bank guidelines and regulations. Just to back up a little bit, cybersecurity. If you look back, probably over the last 10 or 15 years, it was never a buzzword. Today, it is a buzzword across boardrooms, across C-suites. In fact, even with your WhatsApp applications, if you on WhatsApp or TikTok or any one of those social media, you're always prone, you're prone right now to some sort of hacking taking place, right? In fact, we are on a WhatsApp chat group in our community, and even that was hacked just last week. So that is to tell you where we were and where we are today. In fact, you mentioned about the cost of recovery of a cyber event. But today, if you look at the industry itself, the entire cyber crime economy in the world after the US and China, it's somewhere hovering around 9.5 trillion US dollars. Now, take a moment and digest that, right? That's a huge amount of money. What these guys do with it, well, they would recruit the best of the best. They would take that money and invest it in all kind of schemes, which is whether it is Bitcoin laundering or anything of this sort. It is the underground economy that is driving the world today. So us businesses, whether we are small or large, in fact, more so small businesses, medium-sized businesses, I can tell you, may have been lax in some sense or the other. And more, these guys are casting a very wide net to make sure that they catch everyone, whether it is small business or large businesses. So it is important, you don't just look at your business and say, well, we may not be affected. You have to be looking at it. And as Roxanne mentioned, it's not a one-size-fits-all, prescription. You look at your organization very critically, and you analyze it. What are the things, what are the data assets you have at risk? And you would now look at it, implement appropriate solutions. But you also have to implement solutions, not for what you have today, but as any progressive organization, you will grow. And therefore, you have to think ahead of it. And sometimes that is where you might need external assistance to come in to help guide you in thinking that through, not just simply for today, but probably for the next 5 years. Because I can tell you from my own experience, 10 years ago, we were not sitting here talking about cybersecurity, right? In fact, right now it is a boardroom every time I go to board meeting, it is always an agenda item. What is happening? What have you done? Where are we? And so on. So it is very much a conversation piece right now at all levels of the board. So just getting back to the self-assessment. Now, this is, again, central bank would have published guidelines. Now, these are guidelines. They are not meant to be the be-all and end-all, because sometimes what you find is that we say we are just following the guidelines and we think, well, you know, we are safe. But you cannot just stop there. You have to continue evaluating your systems, making sure that you put in new systems, new processes, new people, every single thing. And while something might not be in central bank guidelines, you as an organization have to take preventative measures to make sure that a vulnerability or a threat does not impact you in any way, because it is going to be costly. All right. So the self-assessment that central bank has published is really a table of all the things that, you know, minimally you should be looking at. And it is expected that the 31st of March, every calendar year, these documents are completed, signed by your CEO. All right. Now look at where it has reached. A CEO has to sign off, not an IT manager, not the audit manager. It is the CEO. And I can tell you that at the board level, the board makes sure that the CEO is actively involved in the execution of the cybersecurity policy document or strategy document. That is their role, to make sure that the people who are the managerial level are in fact executing on it. So the guidelines would tell you, okay, when and who should be completing the form. There's the CEO, as I said, has to sign that form. So in other words, he's taken on a huge responsibility. He's not an IT person. And therefore, you know, putting trust in your IT person is a lot, right? So whatever is completed by your IT person must stand up to scrutiny. There must be evidence to support it. Otherwise, a CEO will just be signing or rubber stamping, you know, a document. Sorry, I didn't click my slide. Right, so this is really the central bank self-assessment format. Now, in other countries, maybe in Jamaica or Bahamas or Guyana, there would be different baseline self-assessments, but we are just referring here right now to the self-assessment out of central bank. But it is essentially, if you look at it, you know, it more or less hovers around, you know, your best practices, which is, you know, at a governance level, the board is involved, all right? The board has a fiduciary duty, especially in financial institution, to ensure that there's a formal strategy, cybersecurity strategy. And the more complex the organization is, it now becomes more and more important that that exists. And it must exist not just as a document that collects dust. It must be a living document, must be well executed so that the organization is protected. Plus also, we have to convince our customers at the end of the day that yes, we are well protected. Otherwise, we are talking about, you know, breach in terms of customer confidentiality, reputational risk, all of those things, if something were to happen to us. The self-assessment is a critical review. If you just say, well, I have a cybersecurity document, but it is not really meeting or it is not being updated, you know, as time go on, then that document is going to become quickly outdated. In fact, one of the best practices is that any document like this, like a cybersecurity document, or your procedures, your processes, anything around IT security must be completed, must be annually reviewed, signed, updated, and, you know, it must be reported at a board level. That is what obtains today in organization. Progressive organization, the board is looking that those things are being done and it is being implemented. Now, here, what you will be doing is determining whether you are non-compliant, you are partially compliant, or you are fully compliant. So each one of these bullet points there, you as a person completing it with the CEO, or you will be providing evidence to the CEO that this is completed. And he would make sure, well, he would be the one who would say, well, yes, we are compliant, we are not compliant, or we are partially compliant. So each one of these bullets have to be looked at critically. And, you know, it's hard to do a self-assessment. And that is why sometimes what you may do is invite an external party to come in, work with you, and really critically analyze what you have. Because most every times it's difficult for us to critique ourselves, especially if it is done, you know, if we prepare the document. I mean, I've done that, I've lived that life, right? So I can tell you it's very difficult to critique yourself. So it's important to have external persons review the document, and all of these things will be submitted to the central bank. So the central bank will be looking for the CEO sign off. We'll also be looking to see if you have internal reviews and if you have external reviews. Now, based on that, the central bank would build trust in terms of whether or not the organization is cyber secured and to what extent it is cyber secure. Otherwise, what you will find is that you may become a target, well, not, target is the wrong word, but a company where the central bank would now step in and do a lot more on-site auditing of your compliance program or your cybersecurity program. So preventative measures for me is better than the reactive one, right? I want to make sure that central bank doesn't audit me every year, maybe once in every 3 years or so. That's fine. Come and we'll talk. All right. So there are a number of areas: the business continuity, the testing, the incident managers. All of those things are in the form, right? And for each item, you know, the company is expected to determine the level of compliance with it, whether you're partially compliant, non-compliant. Again, this is a journey. So companies that are now getting into it, do not be scared to say, well, okay, look, I have 0 items there. The thing about it is that you have critically analyzed your situation, and now you have to create a roadmap. In creating a roadmap, you will know what resources you have internally that can help, or do you need external help? And where, you know, once you've identified that and you can convince the central bank, well, you have a schedule of events that is going to take place over the next, say, 6 months, 1 year, to get into that compliance journey. It is not an end all. It is a journey. All right. Today we're talking about cybersecurity. We don't know what will happen, you know, in the AI environment as yet. In fact, you know, AI, I'll just digress here a little bit, right? AI can be used in both sense. One, at a company level where, you know, things are so automated that we can have AI looking into the systems to block breaches. And on the other hand, the cyber crime professionals, they are also using AI, but for a different reason. They are looking at vulnerabilities where their, you know, penetration can get into an organization even faster. So, you know, that's a whole new realm that is developing there. So in another year or two, we may be talking something in addition to what we have today. All right. So let's go on to the other area, and that is of the reporting. Right. So there are some guidelines with respect to when you should submit your incident report to the central bank. 24 hours, once you become aware of an incident, you should inform the central bank. And within 72 hours, you should complete your incident reporting template and submit it to the central bank. Now, for those of you who are in Trinidad, you would recall we had an incident, I believe was last year, where one of our largest telecom provider had a cyber attack. And it became I would say a political football, right? And I'm not sure whether we got really to the bottom of it, but we do know that customer data was shared or was breached. And probably that is one of the reasons why today we are getting all of these WhatsApp, scams that is taking place. So that's just one incident that became up, it was in the public, but then it died. A natural death as far as I'm concerned, right? But to add to, the cyber security, right? We don't talk about physical security, right? So we're talking about cybersecurity incidences and so on, but there's also physical security around your data centers, right? That is equally important, just as opposed to just simply saying, well, I have something like checkpoint or so, managing my network and looking at things outside there, right? You also have to look at what is your physical infrastructure with respect to safeguarding your data centers. And did I go too fast there? Right. So this is an important point, right? You don't want to have your supervisor, your financial supervisor in your backyard every Monday morning, right? And that is why it is important to have these guidelines properly implemented, documented, and monitored, right? There has to be a police. One of the persons, as Roxanne would have identified, would be a compliance person / and or your audit persons, right? Those are the watchdogs to make sure that what we say as a company is being executed. Those persons would normally report directly into the CEO level or to a board level. So they kind of independent of the IT persons. Because there were times where the IT persons was in fact heavily involved with the internal audit people, right? But those days are gone. In fact, right now, many organizations, they have, the IT technocrats sitting at the C-suite level. And that has been deliberate, right? There's a reason for that. We want to know what is happening with respect to our data, whether it is data at rest, whether it is data in transit, all those things will come into play. So more or less, that is it for the self-assessment. It is neatly laid out in the central bank document. Most of it is self-explanatory. And we at RCC stand ready. If there's anyone outside there who needs any assistance, either in developing your strategy or helping you through the self-assessment, we will be ready to help you in that regard. So I think I would have digressed a little bit. I think I used up my time. So thank you very much.
Thanks, Mukesh. I'll mention to our attendees that I placed in the chat, Mukesh, all of the reference points. So starting first with Central Bank's Cybersecurity Best Practices Guideline, that's in the attendee chat. You can also find it online, Central Bank website. So first, the guideline is there in the chat. Secondly, the self-assessment form. And thirdly, instructions for completing a cybersecurity incident reporting form. So all three links are in the chat. I also want to mention any questions. I'm seeing one hand up. If it is a question, I would ask you to place it in our Q&A box so that we can respond to it. I'm seeing one hand raised for Jasmine. So Jasmine, if you could place it in the Q&A box and we'll have someone respond to it. So as a complement to everything that Roxanne or B Roxanne and Mukesh mentioned, so you complete your self-assessment. You identify the gaps that exist, whether it's governance, risk management, incident reporting, testing. So you understand where you need help. How do you find the help? So this is where we at Calibra can complement this. And I'll bring George quickly on in terms of two particular strategies. So we have what we deem our cyber response plan, which will allow you to create specific work streams to help you in remediating all the different principles that exist, as mentioned, whether it's governance or it's incident management, etc. And then we will also help you to be compliant based on all of the existing principles. However, George actually realized I did not launch our special prize, so we'll take a quick pause. As I mentioned, we have gift cards to give away, so I want all of our attendees to stretch their fingers a bit because we need you to respond quickly. So first question, hope you are paying attention. So first question, and I'll make sure I say it clearly. So I'm going to say the question, and I'll ask all attendees to respond quickly. The first correct response will win the gift card. So Mukesh mentioned this, also Roxanne, but as a best practice, cyber breaches or cyber incidents must be reported to the regulator, which is central bank, A, as soon as possible, but within 24 hours, or B, within 7 days of discovery. So question again, as a best practice, cyber breaches or cyber incidents must be reported to central bank, A, as soon as possible, but within 24 hours of becoming aware of the incident, or B, within 7 days of discovery. Please enter in the chat ASAP. Then I'll ask my colleague Avinash to tell me who has won. I'm seeing so many responses. Thank you, everyone. Okay, so Christopher Scott, you are our winner. Congratulations. Is there a little thing we can put up, TCJ, a little excitement drum roll? Christopher Scott, congratulations. You can reach out to us at Calibra 221-6831 to organize to collect your prize. And Roxanne, Mukesh, I have a quick question for you guys coming from one of our attendees. Are all companies required to report the cybersecurity policies and strategies to central bank? And I presume it could mean companies who are not necessarily in finance.
Absolutely not. All regulated companies who are regulated by the central bank must do. So whether you are a payment service provider, whether you are an insurer, whether you are a bank, financial institutions who report to the central bank are required to follow the cybersecurity guidelines and make that report. It is a best practice for everyone else, as Mukesh said, to do a self-assessment and share that with your board. As well, having a cybersecurity strategy just puts you in a better place. And of course, employing solutions such as Judy, who is our special guest today, will help you get there faster and more compliantly, I should say. So they are best practices.
Thanks, Roxanne. And great segue to the Judy team. I want to bring on board Brian Stoner and Ed and Jill. I'll do a quick bio about both persons. So Brian is a high impact channel expert and thought leader with extensive experience working with all channels, but specifically MSP and MSSP partners. Brian has over 15 years of cybersecurity experience with high growth startups like FireEye and Silence, where he led the service provider programs. And Ed is a channel MSSP and alliances leader, also with extensive experience in strategic partnership development, business development, and consulting delivery of complex solutions and professional services.
Can't just exit the room.
And a quick thing about Judy. Judy Security is a leading provider of simple and affordable all-in-one cybersecurity for micro, small, and medium-sized businesses. Without further ado, I will hand over to Brian and Ed. Thank you so much, gentlemen.
Thank you so much, Gracia. It's very, very nice to be here and really enjoyed Mukesh and Roxanne's presentation. There's a lot of great information there, and I hope everyone found that helpful. I'm just going to start and say that Mukesh did an amazing job outlining some of the, today's risks. So I won't spend a lot of time on this, but another aspect to cybersecurity is that when the attackers want to get to a larger business, many times they start with their suppliers. And so if you're a supplier to a large business, that may put you at significantly more risk. So whether you have to meet a compliance requirement or not, making sure that you have good cybersecurity is really important, because when we think about things like cyber risk insurance is not designed to protect you from liability. It's not designed to protect your intellectual property. It's only designed to pay for the cleanup and notification to your customers. So having good cybersecurity is extremely important. What I've noticed over the years, and I've worked for some of the largest cybersecurity product manufacturers on the planet, is that they all focus on the enterprise. And the enterprise obviously has lots of resources. They can buy lots of different tools. And over the years, every time a new threat came, there was a new tool to protect against it. And so the enterprise has been stacking these tools up for years and rationalizing them and trying to understand how to get better information out of them. In the small business, that's extremely difficult. You buy, your best guess of a product because everybody says their product is the best. But when we start to think about what's happening today and the need to be able to see things in a different way and to be able to respond to these attacks faster, guessing at your tool sets and hoping that they're going to protect you isn't really a solid strategy anymore. So at Judy, we've actually designed a platform that not only meets all of the compliance requirements that we've been talking about this morning for the central bank, but it also exceeds them. And so when I say that, one of the key things that we believe in here at Judy Security is that we want to be that pillar, that cornerstone for the small business cybersecurity program. And we do that through 8 different capabilities. And these are all the basic capabilities that you need to meet 90% of all compliance requirements. And we start with a Judy compliance platform where you can store all of your controls and the things that Roxanne and Mukesh will need to help you with that self-assessment and that audit. We actually give you that product as part of the suite for free, as well as the NIST CSF compliance framework built into that tool for free. And so what that'll do is that'll help you organize all of your controls and will help you assign them to the different people in your business and to make sure that you have a complete overview of your cybersecurity posture and your compliance. NIST CSF is great for that. That's what we used as a business, as a cybersecurity provider, as our basis. And so half of those controls are met by these 8 capabilities that Judy has. The other half are things like your physical security policy, your acceptable use policies for your employees, and things that Roxanne and Mukesh can help you with. So by leveraging this tool, even if you're a very small business, you get all of the pieces that an enterprise business would have. So these 8 capabilities include endpoint protection. So scanning for malware and ransomware and protecting your users on their devices. We have a password manager that we built from scratch to be significantly easier than a lot of the different ones in the market today. passwords, if you're looking at how the attackers go after a small business, is probably the top, area that they focus on. If they can figure out a way to get your password for your email or your systems, that's where they like to start, because from there they can go and do a lot of different things. The other thing is small businesses in a lot of cases can't afford to have web accounts for every service that they have for every user in their organization. So they share web accounts a lot. And we actually designed our own shared vault. So instead of sharing usernames and passwords across multiple users and multiple devices, which is very risky, you can do that securely through the password vault. Roxanne also talked about multi-factor authentication. We built our own multi-factor authentication from scratch. So you can go to your favorite app store, whether that's Google Play or the Apple App Store, and you can look up Judy Security and you will see the app there. You can download it for free. And if you're a Judy subscriber, every time you log into your password vault, it'll push to your phone, you hit approve, and it will log you into all of your passwords. So we're trying to help eliminate some of these areas that the attackers like to target the small business. We also have our own email security platform, which is really important because that is another top area where the attackers will try to go after a small business. In previous years, phishing attacks were usually broken English emails from, small countries that were easy to kind of understand if that was a real email or not. But now, as Mukesh shared, AI is being used to generate those phishing emails, which are so authentic, it's very difficult to tell the real thing from the fake. So you need a email platform that can detect those advanced threats. The other area that we see a lot of right now is impersonation. Someone will use your CEO's, email alias, send an invoice to the CFO or someone on the finance team, and they'll go out and pay the invoice. Well, we had one customer who bought a truck and never actually took delivery of it because it was the attacker who sent the invoice through a phishing attack. So just be aware and read about some of these new things that are happening so that you'll have a better understanding of what to protect yourself from. Another key area that we've developed with a partner that we work with called Stellar Cyber is we have an open platform, which takes in logs from all of your current security products and helps make more sense of them. We have a 24/7 security operations team in Detroit, Michigan. They're all US employees. All of the data stays within your region, so the data does not go outside of your region. And that helps meet multiple compliance requirements. And it's very expensive to have a security operations center. So we're doing that for you. That team can, again, bring in logs from all those other great products that Calibra supports, but also all of the Judy products. In addition to that, we have cybersecurity awareness training, as George mentioned. Nice, short 3 to 5 minute modules, easy to understand. And at the end of that, you can do a phishing test to make sure that the people who took the training were paying significant attention. Another area that is important when we think about using the internet and sharing information and doing business over the internet is DNS filtering. I know it's a very technical term, but essentially it means when you go to a website, the website itself can be potentially malware or something that the actors are trying to get you to go to through a phishing campaign. So we have controls to block our customers from getting to those bad websites. But the other thing that you don't realize is that when you're looking at a web page, there could be things like flash ads on the sides and other things. And those have internet connections as well and can potentially add malware and things to your browser. So we even go to that level to help protect you from adware and those other things that could potentially harm your users and their systems. And then, as I mentioned before, we include NIST CSF straight out of the box. If you're not familiar with NIST CSF, the bank's guidelines are built on that. and it's a US government standard. So it's constantly updated. It's one of the most secure frameworks that's available today. So if you can meet that framework, then if you need to meet other frameworks, you just have to add the incremental controls, because NIST CSF gives you a really solid base. So again, Judy has 8 different security controls, and she manages all of those out of the box. And this can all be deployed with one agent. In most circumstances, you would have deployed all of these things separately. They're all being managed separately. There's no control over all of those. In our platform, Judy is an AI assistant that protects your users in real time, and nobody else has this today. It's so advanced that AWS, where we host Judy, gave us $1 million to move her to one of their 6 latest AI high performance models. And that's going to allow us to give Judy even more capabilities in the future. When I started off my talk, I talked a little bit about how we're trying to make this affordable. And with George and his team's help, we've built some bundles that you can consider for your business. And these bundles are designed to be extremely affordable for up to 20 users. There's just a base monthly fee. And you can see all the different great things that are included in, for example, the threat defense bundle. That's where we protect your browsers, we protect your endpoints, we protect all of the data that you're bringing in. We track everything at the file level on up. So we can see people abusing data. We can see packaging data for exfiltration. And our SOC 24/7 will monitor for those things to protect you. And then again, NIST CSF is also included in our compliance portal. When you go to advanced, we combine both the identity capabilities plus the threat defense capabilities, and we add in email. So for just a very nominal fee additional per month, you get pretty much full protection. And then when you get to Premier, that's where we're doing some additional things for email, like storing and backing up your email system. So it's a little more expensive, but for 20 users, that's still very affordable. So again, I'll just reiterate the thing that we focused here at Judy on is this is predictable fixed pricing. When you look at SOC services from other providers, they're going to ask you about things like ingestion and how many logs do you have and those sorts of things. And smaller customers just don't know those answers to those questions. So what we've provided is a very simple fixed pricing model. It's based on the number of users. So there are no minimums. And you can do unlimited devices per user. I have a laptop, I have an iPad, I have a phone. All of those things are included with the per user costs with Judy. There's no training or certification costs. We provide 24/7 live partner support. We give you 360-degree visibility into your entire digital footprint. This is really important because most companies will tell you, oh, well, we'll protect your endpoints, or oh, we'll protect your cloud, or oh, we'll protect your email or other things, right? When you're protecting yourself against the attackers and you're trying to be compliant, it's not about the technology anymore. It's about having all the controls that you need. Judy provides you all of those controls out of the box. You don't have to stitch things together. You don't have to have multiple contracts. You don't have to manage multiple vendors. It makes it significantly simpler. So I'm going to stop there for a second, and I'm going to share an additional demo for you guys. If I can get out of there. All right. Can you see what I'm sharing at, or did I stop sharing? I stopped sharing, didn't I?
No, you have stopped sharing.
Yeah, okay. All right.
There we go.
So earlier I mentioned, Judy had those 8 different capabilities. And so this is the dashboard where our customers and our partners can deploy Judy. And you can see we've designed it to be extremely simple. We can give you metrics on how we're protecting your environment in real time every day. And if you download the Judy app to your mobile device, you get the same report on your mobile device. So now if you're a busy executive and you're at a board meeting and you just want to show them a high level of what's happening, it's right there at your fingertips. And you can control setting up different groups within your company. If you needed another tenant for a smaller subgroup, you can add and maintain your users here. And you can also deploy Judy using a lot of the current technologies that I know George supports. But beyond that, we also support Judy for Windows, Windows Home Edition, Mac OS, Windows servers. We have support for the Google browser, the Bing browser. We have an app in the Google Play Store and an app in the Apple App Store. So let's talk a little bit about security operations. Oops. And I'm going to go back into my single sign-on here, if I can get to it. All right. Can you see the loop now, Ed? Should be coming
It's there we go, coming.
up. Okay.
Yep, got it.
So I'm not going to go into a whole lot of detail on this, but I do want to explain a couple of concepts here, because I think as you're starting your security journey, you should kind of understand some of the basics. So the way cybersecurity evolved is there's all these different products, and they all try to generate alerts to demonstrate that they're doing something. So what that means is a log from a firewall is different from a log from your cloud, which is different from a log from your email security. And so in a traditional security event monitoring system, you'd be bringing in all those logs and you would maintain rules for each of those data sets separately, which is extremely time consuming and doesn't scale. And you're a small business and you just need something that works. So we partnered with Stellar Cyber for this. And what they do is they standardize that data as they bring it in into one format. And then they can use machine learning across that data to determine if there's things that are happening that should be alerted on. And they also do some really unique things like user behavior analytics. When do your users normally log in? When do they log out? Where do they log in from typically? And if something anomalous happens, then that can alert on that. It uses unsupervised machine learning to baseline those behaviors. And this is machine learning that's been used for 10 years. It's not the latest large language model AIs that you've been hearing about in the news. This is really standard, tested security technology. Now, our security operations center looks at over 30 million logs per day from over 40,000 endpoints and over 1,000, customers. We don't have the time to go through 30 million logs every day. So what Stellar Cyber does is it correlates all of those related alerts, right, into an incident that our SOC team can go analyze. So this capability alone reduces that 30 million logs that we bring in per day to 100 things that we actually have to go research. That's a really critical piece to this whole thing. So when we do that, our analysts can even see graphically, where did the attack start? How did it happen, right? In most systems, you cannot get this diagram from anyone. This is proprietary technology that allows us to take in alerts from anything and make sense of it. Not only can we make sense of it, but then if we need to respond, I can, go out and let's say an attacker created an account through a brute force login. I can go delete their account at 2 a.m. and I don't have to call you at 2 a.m. to let you know that I need to do it. I can do it right here from the platform. Similarly, when attacks happen, a lot of times there'll be a DDoS attack from the outside. And I just want to block that IP address to stop the DDoS attack. I can do that here with the click of a button as an analyst. And anything that I've just shown you that I can do manually, I can also build into playbooks. But more importantly, from a reporting perspective, we have all of these reports built out of the box. So if you need to meet PCI and you need the evidence for your assessment, you can export this report into StrikeGraph and you can show that you've met that control. we make it that easy. So this is just kind of a high level of some of Judy's capabilities. And, you know, we would be more than happy to work with George to set up a trial in your environment if you're interested. There's no cost. And as I mentioned before, if you sign up with George as a customer, you get NIST CSF for free, and Roxanne and Mukesh can come in and help you do that self-assessment. And you'll be well on your way to being more secure in your business and protecting yourself, your employees, and your customers. So I'll pause there and see if anybody has any questions.
Thanks so much, Brian. I want to make sure I cover anyone who's raised their hand. So let me first start with Jasmine Watson. Jasmine, your hand is down, but if you had a question, you can ask, and then Agnita, you can follow after Jasmine. Hey guys, can we unmute Jasmine? Hi, Jasmine. I'm seeing you as mute. Can you unmute from your end?
While she's working on that, I'll just share, this is that compliance dashboard that has NIST included that I've been, you know, talking about. And you can see here, this particular dashboard has multiple compliance frameworks, but this is where you can go in and monitor your active controls. And this is kind of what that control library looks like. Acceptable use of company assets. You can go in and see what's involved in that control. And this really helps you just work step by step through these things. And once you're completed, then you can go for your audit. So it just makes it that simple. So we have a whole control library in case, and you can also see every control meets multiple frameworks. So once you fill it out once in this platform, you can add additional frameworks, and it automatically tells you your completion percentage before you even start a second project. So it's really helpful to keep you organized and on task. And you can also store all of the evidence here in the platform as well, so that when Roxanne and her team come in, they don't have to look through multiple spreadsheets and, you know, piles of share drives. It can all be in one place, and they can go control by control and be much more efficient in their assessment.
Thanks, Brian. Let me ask Agnita to ask her question. Hi, Agnita. Can you unmute?
If they're having trouble unmuting, maybe they could just type their question in.
Yep, agreed. But I have some questions, Brian, so we'll do that whilst we're here. Someone did ask, which you confirmed, but we'll say it again. What OS version does Judy run on?
OS version, as far as which platforms does it run on?
I suppose that was the literal question, but you can just reiterate it.
Yeah, it runs on Windows, Mac OS, Google Chrome and Chromebooks, Windows servers, as well as the Apple and Google devices.
Okay, and I think obviously we'll have to do our own Judy presentation at some point, but two questions from a support aspect. What is or who are Judy's blue team?
Yeah, so we have a team of dedicated resources in Detroit, Michigan. And so we have 15 full-time, and we have up to 24 interns at any given point in time. And so they're all cleared individuals, because many of our customers have to meet federal guidelines. And so all of them have background checks, but they're all full-time employees of Judy, except for the, what am I trying to say?
The
I just-
interns.
Interns. Thanks, Ed.
You're welcome.
Yeah, except for the interns. So the interns kind of help us weed through a lot of the noise, and then our direct analysts take action for you. 24/7.
I just put a quick question in the chat. If a customer, a small business is still running on XP, can Judy still secure their cyber assets?
Yeah, I would have to confer to our technical team, but because we support Windows Home, I'm not sure if we can go back as far as Windows XP, but we would definitely do our best.
Wonderful.
Or even before then, Roxanne. So Darren actually clarified his question. So any older versions as well, Brian, XP 7, 8. So if you get that answer, we can share it with the attendees. Darren,
Absolutely.
I've taken a note of your question, so I will reach out directly once I have that clarified. An additional support question, Brian or Ed, tell us a bit about the customer support. Is, just as much as you want coverage, you also want to know that you're supported if an issue does happen. So if a customer has an issue, and by customer, I refer to the companies that are here and others. So if they have an issue, suspicious alert, potential breach, what is their course of action through Judy?
So we have 3 different severities. There's a critical, which we call a P1, a business, P2, and then a non-critical, which is we contain some malware or something like that. So we just report on the regular things that we block every day. Anything that's business level, they would hear from you through us. If you needed to do any research on a potential issue. But if it was a critical issue, we would jump into action and isolate the device immediately. And then we would reach out to you and the end customer to figure out what corrective action needs to take place to fully remediate that situation. But in the event that there was a low, slow attack over 8 months, we store all of the logs for a year, and you can keep the logs after that in cold storage for as long as you want. And we can significantly speed up a forensic investigation because we have all the data in one place in a standard format. It's much easier to do the forensics work. So we can shrink a 2-week incident response engagement into a few hours because of the way that we collect and store the data.
Thanks, Brian. And we are coming up on time, so I want to do the second prize question that we had. So I'm hoping everyone that's still with us remembers some bits of Brian's presentation. So question 2, and please place your responses in the chat, and Avinash, again, just bringing you up to help us select the winner. So question, how many capabilities or security controls does Judy Security have? I'll repeat, how many capabilities or security controls does Judy Security have?
I see some correct answers.
I
Yeah,
know.
that was quick.
You have
You're
a
paying
very
attention.
sharp group here this morning. This is great.
Oh, yes, yes.
All right, and they were on the button. So thanks, Avinash. I'm seeing that Davind
Madhu,
is our winner. Congratulations, Davind. And everyone else, there's one more question, guys. Stay tuned. I do want to bring in, so Davind, you can reach us at Calibra 221-6831. I'll also message you our email address so that we can coordinate getting your prize. But there's one more, guys, so stay with us. I want to bring up, see, I'm seeing people are saying that there's an internet delay. There's one more question, Warren. All right. I have a question for you, Roxanne or Mukesh. And Mukesh, probably this is you as you raise the self-assessment. From your experience, so the guideline was issued in 2023. Some companies have already completed it this year. But what are some of the common issues that companies have had or they've identified by doing the self-assessment?
I think I can answer more to that, having hands-on met with a number of my clients to do the self-assessment. A lot of them were in shock and awe and surprise. I think I mentioned it a bit. A lot of them believe that they had this IT guy that was in charge of their cybersecurity, and they were rudely awakened to find out that they were fully compliant on only a few of those requirements. Most people, I don't believe I had one client that was pretty much about 75% fully compliant, but everyone else was in a bit of shock, awe, and surprise as to where they were, what their cybersecurity posture was. And they determined that resiliency was definitely on a low. So that is why I was so excited upon meeting Judy and really wanting us to do this today, because people also, they put it in someone else's hand and they just put it there and thought everything was okay. And only upon receiving this self-assessment requirement were they then aware of what their position was. And I think that's important to note, and why we're here today to tout the fact that CBTT says this is a best practice for everyone. Go click the link, download the self-assessment, put yourself through the rigors, ask those questions, call us if you need an expert like Mukesh to tell you exactly what that question means. Because in some instances, my clients didn't really know the depth and breadth of the question. So that's why you should reach out to us for some assistance.
So, Professor, just to add, you know, and I'm not going to knock the IT guys because I was one of them in my prior lives, right? But our, the focus has always been on a technical aspect. Do we have the antiviruses up to date? Do we have, checkpoint or whatever endpoint protection? Do we have those things in place? And that has been more or less a siloed view, not necessarily at a business level. And so these guidelines cut across all of that and, really looks at every aspect, right? So again, not knocking the IT guys, but, let's not focus on just the IT part. There's a lot more than that. IT guys by nature, they don't like to develop processes and procedures and policies. So somebody has to do that, but somebody also has to police it. So, yes, the technical part is being dealt with, but there's a whole slew of other things that needs to be dealt with. And when you do the risk assessment, independent of IT, you realize where that gap is now, right? Because we could have no procedures and we could have procedures. If we have none, maybe there's nothing to monitor. But once we have the procedures in place, it has to be monitored. Right. And there's always, these clashes between IT people and audit people and compliance people and somebody trying to defend what they have or what they don't have. That exists. At the end of the day, it's all about business, right? Can the business survive a cyber attack? And in fact, one of the questions I was asked recently about whether or not, this whole reporting framework should be for other companies. My answer to that, not necessarily to report a central bank, but once you're dealing, you have web portals and so on, dealing with customer data, even your own financial data, you should have robust cybersecurity measures installed, irregardless whether financial or non-financial. You should have that. So I'm just putting that as a takeaway for everyone.
No, I appreciate that, Mukesh. But IT also fights with sales and marketing.
Oh, yes.
Having been
definitely.
a victim. So, so I'll mention that as well. All right, so I have 6 minutes, 2 more questions as well as 1 more prize. I want to quickly bring in James, who's here, and I always appreciate James spending time with us. So James, in our experience earlier this year working with Roxanne's team, we would have worked with some clients who did their own, hi James, who did their own self-assessments, and we saw their results, identified the gaps. Mukesh made a great point about policies. How does DPSA help to, whether it's review or draft, but bring these policies to a feasible and compliant way?
Right. I really loved what Mukesh said, right? Like that really resonates because that's the reality. You can have all the firewalls, you can have all of those controls in place, but if your folks aren't following policy or you don't have policies, that's only going to get you so far, right? When you look holistically at information security and data protection, Gracie is going to chuckle, but I always use the analogy of a candy cane, right? A candy cane is red and it's white. It's not pink. And what's important about that candy cane is if you look at that red line is in data protection and data security, and the white part of the candy cane as data privacy, you'll see that from A to Z in that candy cane, they touch each other, they intertwine, that it spirals the whole way through, but they don't mix and they don't make pink, right? But you can't have one without the other. I know nowadays that's probably a silly thing. There are pink candy canes, there's blue ones, I've seen it all. But the old school candy cane as we know it is kind of that thing. And so where DPSA comes in is where we are that team, we are that group that does create those policies, along with associated procedures, right? Earlier I heard folks talking about NIST. I get pretty excited. I'm actually a chair with NIST. So I sit on their council. I'm one of the guys that helps update both the CSF and the privacy framework. We just went through a huge update of the NIST privacy framework, which can go hand in hand. And so we do use NIST when we do assessments for this cybersecurity framework. But we also take the privacy framework, which obviously I'm one of the authors, so I'm a big fan. We incorporate that, and we would help organizations create policies and associated procedures that they can then implement, and then we can take it a step further with outsourced privacy office services where we can help them integrate and start implementing and integrating these policies and procedures into their daily operations, going back to what Mukesh said, because if you don't have that, you really don't have a program.
Thanks so much, James. And so I'm going to launch the last question, guys, attendees, please, no internet delays. And I mean, James literally just answered the question, so I hope you were paying attention. So the question is, last question for a chance to win a gift card. What compliance framework did James literally just reference and is also included in Judy Security free of charge? What compliance framework is included in Judy Security free of charge? And you don't have to spell it out, just give me the acronym. That's fine. It's Avinash. Well, so I'm seeing it's Chinara, who I know. Chinara, very happy to see you. So Chinara correctly said it's NIST, which for the uninformed is the National Institute of Standards and Technology and CSF Cybersecurity Framework. I don't know if we have time. There was a question, Brian, about the strike graph, just briefly touching on what that means. Could you do that in 60 seconds?
Yeah, I mean, it's, again, I shared a brief demo of it, but essentially, oops, I am not, hold on. It's the basis for our compliance, and it's available free of charge in the platform. And I'm trying to get back to it. There we go. Share screen. There we go. So I shared this briefly earlier, but as I mentioned, this is a platform that helps you organize and store the evidence and assign different tasks to different people within your organization to meet NIST CSF. And as I mentioned before, there's about 14 primary areas within NIST CSF. Judy Security manages 7 of those directly. And so the other 7 would be the things that you could leverage Calibra and Mukesh and Roxanne to help you, add your additional policies, your acceptable use policies, your physical security policies, and things that wouldn't be covered by your cybersecurity. So Judy can really become that cybersecurity pillar for you, that cornerstone. And StrikeGraph is the platform that we use to do that. And if there was ever a situation where you needed an auditor, they also offer audit services. So it's really a complete, package, and it's designed for those small businesses that don't have $50,000 to $100,000 budgets to meet a compliance requirement. So we're super excited to partner with George and the team and to provide this in the Caribbean market.
Thank you, Brian. And all good things have to come to an end. Really appreciate everyone's attention and attendance. Quickly, you can reach Calibra at 221-6831 or info@calibrasolutions.com. You can also reach the RCC team at rcctandt@gmail.com. So rcctandt@gmail.com or 684-4369. Everyone will receive the webinar recording, so please look out for that email, and we welcome you to complete our survey so we can know whether any of these things are of interest to you. I want to thank my wonderful panelists. I want to thank TCJ for your wonderful support as always. And of course, to the attendees, we wouldn't be here without you. And everyone, have a great rest of afternoon, great rest of week, and of course, a wonderful Christmas season. Thank you so much again.
Indeed, it was a pleasure, Gracia. I'm seeing all the
Cheers.
fantastic comments from the attendees. It was definitely wonderful to be here today.